I'm back with another video. Peru Part 4 marks the end of my trip to Peru. This video is about my experience on Rainbow Mountain. Here we go. The trip to Rainbow Mountain begins with a pickup from my hotel in Cusco. For those traveling to Rainbow Mountain, that pickup happens around 3:30 a.m. Rainbow Mountain is 100 kilometers or 62 miles from Cusco. The drive will take you somewhere between 3.5 to 4 hours. There are a number of guide services that will take you to Rainbow Mountain. It is a very popular trip from Cusco. Know that you can go on your own, but hiring a tour guide is well worth it. I think I spent $30 and that included breakfast and lunch. After driving for about 2 hours, we come to a restaurant where we are going to have breakfast. It is a good idea to add some fuel before taking on Rainbow Mountain. This is a buffet breakfast. There is something here for everyone. This is also another opportunity to hydrate and prepare for the altitude of Rainbow Mountain. One of the ways that I prepare is drinking some coca leaf tea. If you watched my last video about Machu Picchu and the time that I spent in Cusco, I spoke about coca products. And in the leaf form, they are very safe to consume. Just do not take them out of the country. Rainbow Mountain sits at 5,200 meters or 17,060 feet above sea level. There is 40% less oxygen at this altitude than there is at sea level. So before you do this, there are a few things you should do to prepare. First of all, spend some time in Cusco to acclimate to high altitudes. Drink lots of water. Hydration is extremely important. And yes, I said water. Alcohol is not your friend, and it should be avoided. You should be in reasonable condition. You don't necessarily need to be a marathon runner. You should have some cardio workouts in your recent history. I would also say this: if you struggle with altitude sickness, this may not be the trip for you. After breakfast, we get back in the van and we drive about another hour and a half. And then we make a turn on a dirt road and we start to climb the switchbacks on our way up the mountain. You see a lot of vans making this climb. Rainbow Mountain has become a very popular day trip. Aside from Machu Picchu, it may be the most popular day trip from Cusco. There are about 1,000 people a day that attempt to make this trek. The indigenous name for Rainbow Mountain is Vinicanca, which means colored mountain. That is a Quechua name spoken in the language of the indigenous people who live and are native to Peru. Weather is unpredictable at this altitude. However, I would suggest visiting Rainbow Mountain during the dry season from April to October. Make sure that you bring water, bring layers, bring a dust mask. The wind blows a lot of this dust and dirt around. Bring sturdy shoes. Some people bring their own hiking poles. Most guide services will provide them for you. You also want to bring cash. Although things are not very expensive, everything is paid for here in cash. Good idea is to bring some toilet paper. They don't have any in the facilities here. You're either going to have to buy it or bring your own. After the drive up the mountain, we go on to the parking lot and there are a lot of people here. There are vendors here. This may be your last best chance to go to the restroom. If there's something you've forgotten, scarf, gloves, it is available here for a fee. There again, remember, cash only. The hike to Rainbow Mountain is not very long. It's only about 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles. It's not very steep. It's more of a gradual trek than it is a climb. The issue here is the altitude. As I said, Rainbow Mountain is at 17,000 feet above sea level. To give you some perspective, it is just a bit lower than the altitude of the Mount Everest base camp. Our guide, Jesse, tells us that we do not have to travel in a group. We all hike at our own pace. If and when we reach the summit, that she will be there and we will have about 30 minutes to take in the scenery and take a few photographs. Before you start the hike, a couple other things. You can ride a horse to Rainbow Mountain. It is an additional 80 soles. If you decide at the beginning of the hike that you want to ride a horse, a lot of people do it, not a big deal. Me personally, I just thought I would be betraying all the work that I put in at the gym if I did that. Here's the thing though, if you decide somewhere along the hike, you know what, this is harder than I thought, and I think I'm going to need a horse, someone will bring you one. However, now the horse will cost 120 soles because they know, yeah, you're in trouble right now, and you're going to give me just about anything I want to make this hike better. There are a few people who opted to ride the horse. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was a little nervous. I'd read and heard so much about the altitude. This was 3,000 feet higher than I have ever been, and that is not something that I took lightly. However, I decided just take your time and left your way up the mountain. There are a few people here that seem to be struggling, but let me say this. If you want to do this, it is not a crime to stop and take a break here and there and try and catch your breath. You won't, but you can try. About halfway through the hike, I realized one, I'm going to be fine, but two, this altitude is no joke. It is also a blow to your ego when you're struggling to get up the mountain and you see one of the Quechuan guys running down the mountain with a horse. She was out here in a skirt and some patent leather shoes, just running down the mountain. It was crazy. When I see this, I realize that I am going to have to step my gym game up. I will say this, the horse does not take you to the summit of the mountain. It takes you to the toe of what is the steepest climb to the summit. So even if you ride a horse, you're going to have to get off the horse to do the most difficult section, which is really just about the last 10% of the hike. That everyone has to do on foot. Hiking along, and I come to a restroom, which is basically an outhouse. This is why you bring toilet paper. I keep going, and then I have to make a decision. There are two ways you can go. There's one long switchback that's a bit more gradual. There's another trail that I see people on that is a much steeper climb, but it's also much shorter. And I thought to myself, I'm going to put an end to this misery. The sooner I get to the top, the better. So I took the steeper climb. When I finished that section, I took a short break. There again, you can take a break and try and catch your breath. You won't, but you can try. And it did help some. I am not feeling any symptoms of altitude sickness, no headache. I'm drinking lots of water. I'm good. So I've completed what seems to be the most difficult part of the hike. So I go on, and then I reach a point that I think is the summit. So now I can see the rainbow of Rainbow Mountain. It is stunning. Also lots of people. It's very festive here. There are lots of vendors. There are people up here frying chicken. There's all sorts of things going on. You can buy magnets and souvenirs. It's like a shopping mall. Someone had to carry all this stuff up here. Something of note, when you want to take a photograph with the local wildlife or with one of the Quechuan people, know that that comes at a cost, and that cost needs to be paid in cash. So many of those shots that you see on Instagram, you have to pay for those. And while I am walking around, I am staring at the mountain. It is beautiful. It resembles the images that I have seen in a number of different places. But then I realized this is not the summit. There is one more climb. And right now I'm thinking, you know what? This is a cruel joke and it is not funny. But I'm really excited. It's really beautiful. Aside from the fact that my lungs are on fire, I feel just fine. It's only another 50 yards or so, but it is pretty steep, but I make it up there. And it was very well worth it. So now I've reached the summit of Vinicunca. Wow. It is very impressive. The mountains, the valleys, there's a glacier here. It was beautiful. In total, it took me about 55 minutes to reach the summit. I did not see Jesse, our guide, or anyone else in the group that I had traveled with. So I'm assuming that I made pretty good time. And I was happy about that because that just gave me more time to spend and take in the view. After a few minutes, I see our guide, Jessie. She tells me that I can spend a bit more time here because she's still waiting on some others from the group. While I'm looking at this, I forget that my lungs are burning. I forget that the oxygen level is low. I forget that I really questioned my fitness. All I can do is look at the 7 colors of this mountain. A couple of things about Rainbow Mountain. Typically, at this elevation in the Andes mountain range, you have snow. We didn't know it was Rainbow Mountain until about 2015 when the snow melted as a result of climate change. When people realized what they have here, they started tours. Each one of these colors represents a different mineral or element. The red is iron oxide. The yellows are sandstone and sulfide. The browns are manganese. The purples are moles. The greens are phyllites. Vinicunca has earned its name as the mountain of 7 colors While we're waiting for others, Jesse takes my phone and takes a few pics, then asks me if I'm interested in going on to the Red Valley. The Red Valley is another kilometer or so away. It's also 300 feet higher. I decided in the beginning that yes, I wanted to see it. And if I've made it this far, another 200 to 300 feet in elevation change is doable for me right now. If you decide to go from Rainbow Mountain on to the Red Valley, which is just another trail, do know this: there's another charge. The Red Valley lies in another Quechuan community, and rightfully so. They want a piece of the tourism dollars as well. So you will need to bring an additional 20 soles. There will be someone sitting there with a cash box. She'll take your cash, she'll give you a little ticket, and then you start your hike up to the Red Valley. For some reason, this hike seemed more difficult. It was just as beautiful, maybe even more. Perhaps it seemed more difficult because the trail is narrow. There is a lot of space here. There are not as many people hiking to the Red Valley. Most of them have decided this Rainbow Mountain thing was enough for me, and they go back down to the parking lot from there. During the hike, I passed this couple. They had stopped, and she did not seem very happy. And I guess she wasn't, because a few seconds later, I literally saw her punch that dude in the head. It kind of had the look of, you didn't tell me that you signed us up for this. In any event, I didn't see them anymore. I'm assuming that they turned around and went back. It wasn't much further. And when I got to the viewpoint, it was all worth it. I could not believe the size and the color of this valley. The Quechua people call the Red Valley Punca Pampa. It is linked to one of the ancient Inca pilgrimage routes. All told, the hike to Red Valley only adds about 3/4 of a mile to the Rainbow Mountain hike, and it actually becomes a loop. Once you hike from Rainbow Mountain to the Red Valley, you hike from the Red Valley down the mountain back to the parking lot. If you are wondering if you should add the Red Mountain to your Rainbow Mountain experience, yes, you should. In my opinion, it was just as, if not more stunning than Rainbow Mountain. And there are a lot fewer people. It takes me a few minutes to hike back to the parking lot. It was all downhill. I get back to the parking lot. It seems as if Jesse and many other people from our group are there waiting. There are a couple other stragglers that are behind me. And from here, we load in the van and we head back towards Cusco. We drive for about another hour. We stop for lunch before we drive back to Cusco, because the Rainbow Mountain experience is an all-day affair. It starts at 3:30 in the morning. It was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon when I was dropped off at my hotel. So when you do this, keep in mind, it is going to consume your entire day. Thank you for watching. My analytics tell me that many of the people who watch don't subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and it would help me a lot if you would click that like and subscribe button. Thank you. Although the altitude of Rainbow Mountain presents a challenge, it is well worth the effort. Do yourselves a favor and do all the things necessary to mitigate any effects of the altitude, and go and enjoy this mountain. The trip to Rainbow Mountain marks the end of my Peruvian experience. And like many of my experiences, I would love to come back and do this again. But before I do, I will leave you with these. Thank you for watching. I'll be posting another video soon. Please tune in.